One day, I hope I can meet a handsome man who can sit still, follow the rules, and complete tasks in a consecutive order. Said no interesting woman ever. Hey, Dan here, and in this video, we're looking at 6 things you can do that will have a tremendously positive impact on your life if you have adult ADHD. Yes, most of these will help with children as well with ADHD, but I find that a lot of these are more of a struggle with adults. I work a lot with entrepreneurs, with self-employed people, and things like the first thing you can be doing can actually be a big struggle for us. And so that number 1 thing is to have positive relationships. I call this hugs and handshakes. I have something up on my wall that I made that says just that. And it's a reminder to get out and spend positive time with friends. Now, for those of us who grew up in North America and are programmed to think pills are the solution to everything, it's kind of weird to think like, how does going out and having some beer with your friends or, spending some time cuddling with your partner, watching a movie, how the heck does that treat ADHD? Hell if I know, but it does. And it does sort of make sense though if you really think about it. Like ADHD, part of what shows up with it is a lack of or abundance of or just generally issues with dopamine, serotonin, and a few other neurotransmitters. And that creates problems for us. And so things like hugging someone affects our brain chemistry. It seems funny, like we think, oh, you need pills for everything, but it really isn't the case. So spending time out with friends in larger groups, going out and laughing with a group of friends, watching a funny movie, going to a comedian with friends while having some drinks after, oh my God, that's just like the be all and end all. By the way, I'm not encouraging drinks in all these examples. I just happen to be in Spain right now, and that seems to be what everyone does. The second thing you can do, which will reduce the negative symptoms of adult ADHD, is to reduce electronics. Reduce your social media. Remember that first thing where I said spend time with your friends? I don't mean, Instagramming each other. I mean go out, see each other in real life. At the very least, get on a video call or a phone call, but that's still not nearly as good as being in the flesh with people. So reduce your electronics. This is a no-brainer, really. As we all know, if you spend a day on social media, browsing random stuff online, except my YouTube channel. My YouTube channel has been shown in double-blind placebo studies to actually cure all diseases. So everything but my YouTube channel will have a negative effect on you. So most things electronic will have a negative impact on you. This is one reason I use a paper planner. And I know it might seem ridiculous, but I do actually think that a lot of people with ADHD prefer things in the physical world around us. I actually have a theory that we're more like the properly evolved people who would be really good hunters and survive in the wild and all that kind of thing. And like people who just love living on their laptops are more the ones who maybe, wouldn't survive the lions and stuff, but I'm not gonna get into that theory right now. But it is something where I find the more I do with paper, things like whiteboards, I tend to walk around and pace when I think, if I'm on a phone call. And this is very common with people with ADHD. We like physical things, and electronic things, not only does it have all the downsides you've probably heard about, like notifications are distracting and it can be addicting and all that, but I think it pulls us out of our environment and there's a lot of negative consequences to that. Now it is 2020, so saying, hey, reduce your electronics is harder now than it has been in the past. I totally get that. But look at ways you can set limits and look at ways you can do things differently. I'll give you some examples of this, of how I do it within my own business. I mentioned using a paper planner. The other thing that I will do is if I have team meetings, I will often do them on my phone rather than sitting in front of a computer and go for a walk. So they won't be video calls. I'll just call up a member of my team. We'll talk as I go walk around, go walk down to the beach or walk around the city. Things like that, I find at least reduce the amount of time I need to be in front of the screen. So as an entrepreneur, yes, there's certain things that I need to do that require me to be connected, but I try to really minimize that as much as I can. If there's things where I can do it by pen and paper, I'll sometimes go out to a cafe and just bring a pen and paper and be like, all right, let's plan out this book or let's plan out this video by hand. Then I can go type it up on the laptop or go film it or something. But just trying to keep the time to as few of hours as possible, which still often ends up being 6 or 8 hours a day, which is definitely not ideal, but it is, the world we live in. The next thing that will have a huge impact on your ability to focus and to execute and to make good decisions is sleep. We still don't know all the details on what sleep is actually for and what it does for us, but we do know that it does a lot to balance our brain chemistry. And a good night's sleep will set you up to focus, to make good decisions, and will do a lot to alleviate the symptoms of ADHD. A bad night's sleep will make everything exponentially worse. I know I might be a little bit privileged with this, but my rule is I don't use an alarm. I'll sometimes have a backup alarm, like if I have meetings at 11 or noon, but generally I do not use an alarm. I let my body figure out how much sleep I need and have that amount of sleep. And there'll be times where I get up after 6 hours and I'm, all right, I'm up, I'm good to go. And there'll be times where I need 10 hours. But what I've realized is the days when I don't have enough sleep, sometimes the first day will actually be pretty good, but then I'll notice the next day when I've started tracking my results is the day after a bad night's sleep won't actually be very good. I'll have a lot of brain fog and trouble focusing and trouble really getting things done. And so this is something that I've noticed has made a big difference. It also plays a huge role in aging and Alzheimer's and all that. So I'm thinking, all right, I'll be mentally healthier for longer. I'll probably live longer. I'll get more done. I'm just gonna sleep more. And whatever you got to do to make that happen, I know there's probably a million excuses, but try to make it happen. It will make a really big difference. Maybe right now you work 10 hours a day. What if you worked 8 hours a day, but were more focused and productive and more effective with your work because you were sleeping more? Try it out is all I'm saying. The next area that has a huge impact on ADHD is diet and supplements. I could probably do a whole nother video on this, and I probably will actually do a whole nother video. But the very basics here, try to have more healthy fat and more protein. Try to have less, as minimum as possible, of refined carbohydrates. Things like white breads, sugars are really bad. That includes juices and sodas. If you're still doing that, stop. It has a really negative impact, not only on your health overall, but your mental health and ability to focus. I've experimented with this a lot in terms of diet. I've done things like the keto diet. Generally, I try to minimize wheat especially, and carbohydrate, sugar, these sorts of things. It definitely does have a positive effect. Now, one thing with diet, and this actually applies to everything I'm covering in this video, including relationships and exercise and sleep and all that, is that these things aren't necessarily as instant as taking a pill. If you take a pill, you might right away notice something and say, oh, okay, wow, this works, I can focus now. Some of these other things have build-up effects. With exercise, the first time, and that's the next one, so I kind of ruined the whole surprise of what number 5 will be. But with exercise, the first time you exercise, you might have a bit of a high from it where you can focus more and get more done. But each time it tends to get better. And what actually happens, and there's a great book on this called Spark, and it talks about the effect exercise has on the brain. And over time, it changes the wiring of your brain. So you get exponentially better results the more and more you exercise. And that can be the same thing with diet. If you just don't eat wheat and sugar for one day, you're not going to suddenly be like, wow, I can do everything. I'm the focus monster. But over time, you will notice it gets better and better. It can be the same thing when it comes to spending time with friends and people you care about. I'll have a few days where I'm just working at home and I'm working alone and I'm actually being quite productive. And I think, yeah, maybe I don't need to go out, just get this work done. And it's always around day 2 or 3 where I just crash in terms of my productivity, my ability to focus. Just massively crashes. It's like you can get away with it for a bit. It's same with healthy eating. I can get away with a few days of maybe eating pizza and wheat and unhealthy things, but pretty soon that focus crashes, the brain fog comes in, just feels like I just can't execute things. I can't just sit down and make myself do things. That is a consequence of not following these healthy habits ultimately. So don't think like just because one day you don't sleep well and you get work done, or one day you eat really crappy food and you're still able to focus and don't have any brain fog, don't think, oh, this stuff doesn't matter. The effects of these things are compounding and long-term, and I know that makes it a little harder to implement because you don't get that instant kick, but if you track things like brain fog and focus and mood and all that, you'll notice a gradual improvement and a consistent improvement if you follow as many of these best practices as you can. That, of course, leads me to number 5, which I already gave away, which is exercise. But the type of exercise here is really important, and it's a lower intensity cardio exercise. For a long time, I didn't intentionally ever do cardio. I love to run. I have probably since I was maybe 20 or so. And actually that was a way that I was self-medicating ADHD without realizing it. I'd like to go for runs, but I never did it like in a routine way. When I'd go to the gym, I would just do weights and things. I never thought there was a big benefit of cardio. I was obviously wrong, okay, I will admit that. And it was this book Spark that talked about exercise and the impact on the brain that really opened my eyes to it. And the type of cardio you want to be doing is where your heart rate is 180 minus your age as sort of the maximum. So if you're 40 years old, 140 would be the maximum. So the range would be like 120 to 140, you'll get the benefits from it. And somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes for it, right? 30 minutes is probably where you should start aiming for. And honestly, this kind of exercise, it can be boring. I treat it like medicine for me. I remember in Prague, there was a while where I was doing cardio every day. And I'll tell you right now, my mind was on fire in the best of ways. My energy levels, my ability to focus, my ability to just make good decisions and do what I wanted, and the serious lack of brain fog. The results from this time in my life, it was incredible. And don't worry, it is something I'm getting back to. I'm not doing cardio every day right now, but I do many days as well. But I remember then, because it was the winter in Prague, that I had to just go to this gym and I treated it like medicine. I would bring my phone, I'd watch YouTube videos, I might respond to emails or YouTube comments. But I just said, I have to sit in this bike and do this for 25, 30 minutes. It's boring, but it's my medicine. Just do it. And now, like, I'm in Spain, so it's actually February as well, but I'm in Spain this time. And so now I'm doing things like playing tennis, going for runs on the beach, occasionally going to the gym as well, to mix it up, to make it more fun. But if you are somewhere where you can't do that right now, like the weather's terrible or you don't have the time, just do 20 minutes. Buy a skipping rope and do it. Do jumping jacks, go get an exercise bike or something, but just do the 20 to 30 minutes as a minimum. And you will notice the first few days, you might not notice a lot, but it will really make a difference. And very quickly, I don't want to complicate this video too much, but in addition to this kind of cardio, exercise that requires a lot of coordination and learning, so things like perhaps rock climbing, play basketball or tennis or hockey, that's going to be even better than just boring stationary cardio. And the sixth thing you can do that will have a tremendously positive impact on the negative symptoms of adult ADHD is some kind of mental focus. This can be prayer, this can be meditation, this can be something like Yoda. If you can talk to Yoda, honestly, I think Yoda might be one of the best treatments. You sit there, he gives you motivational advice, you have positive relationships. He gives you missions to do, which include exercise and goal setting, which is good as well. So if you can do any kind of Yoda in your life, I recommend it. If Yoda is not available, consider yoga as well as a plan B. Throughout this video, one of the things you might have noticed is I said treat the negative symptoms of adult ADHD. And that is because there are so many positive traits we get from ADHD that give us what I would say are superpowers. I'm going to make a video on the superpowers of ADHD and what makes us awesome. The cool thing that I have found, and I think this is what is found really across the board, is when you treat these negative symptoms with things like exercising, positive relationships, better diet, what ends up happening is you get all the good still, but supercharged and not the bad. And you can be an absolute friggin' rock star. Speaking of rock stars, now it's your turn to be a rock star. Let me know in the comments below which of these you have done in your own life and what the effects and benefits have been. And if you're new to the channel, we are a community of rock stars. So hit that subscribe button and I will catch you in the next video soon. Thanks for watching. 5, 6, 7, 8. Why do you procrastinate?